Max Lindquist, how are you, sir?
Doing good, Leonard. As always. So
That's
appreciate.
that's great. Hey, we're going to talk about Ironman, and you're going to fill us in on round 5 of the ATV-MX, man. How are you?
Yes, sir. It was a good weekend. Dry weather, good track conditions, lots of good racing. So let's get to talking. Have some good stuff to talk about.
I've been watching a lot of videos, Rip It Up Films, thank you. And there's a couple other guys I've watched some of their stuff too, but mainly Rip It Up. And dude, that course just looks like it would have been so much fun to ride in my youth.
Definitely at a youth age where it's like it is an awesome course, but it is also brutal. So definitely be young and dumb and willing to jump anything and jump to the moon. And can't be concerned about what the landing's going to feel like, because there's a couple there that you're just jumping so far that when you do land, you know it. So,
Wow. I
but
also saw that, you were checking your transponder, out there while you were trying to ride. What was that all about?
the track was really good, nice and tacky, couple good berms that you can really hook off of hard. It helps if you know they're there. Um, so decided to hit one of those and make sure that everything in the front end was set and good to go before I decided to try and put another heater in. So decided a little break.
just had to do a last minute check, right?
Well, just had to make sure the transponder was going to work before I went and did my next hot lap.
Was that an unplanned check?
It was on the fly.
That's pretty cool. So how was it on we talked about Friday practice and stuff like that. Saturday morning you got up and weather was good and everybody was ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, all weekend long. No rain, which was awesome to see, especially considering the forecast we initially had. And track crew did a great job. Good track all weekend. It did roughen up a little bit on Saturday afternoon, but all around, I think from what I heard with a lot of the amateurs too, like it was a really fun course for most people. They enjoyed it. It flowed well. It was a fast paced course, but all around, like really good track that they put on for us this year.
Was the turnout really good, like most of the other rounds?
I haven't seen official numbers. To be totally honest, I think the rain may have scared a few people away. Wasn't necessarily the biggest I've ever seen it there, but also did see some classes with qualifiers and full gates. So I'll be curious to see what the official numbers and turnout was on this track, because I guess maybe I was expecting a few more riders. Just from past years, it's always a big event, but it wasn't by any means small either.
Yeah, it looked like it when they were showing the gates and when they were showing the things that I did get to see, that there were plenty of riders.
Yeah, it seemed like there was a pretty good amount of riders. The parking there is just so spread out, so it's hard to say. Like, it seemed like it was a little thin in the parking lot, but when it came to racing, I saw quite a few full gates, and good motos. So I'd say it was a good turnout.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. In the WMX, it's like Kinsey's keeping it perfect, huh?
Yeah, she's gonna be her own worst enemy. I think that's the only way you kind of beat her at this point. She's definitely, her and Joel are both on that real similar streak at the moment. Really just consistent, clicking off their laps, and actually got to watch their whole first moto. And I mean, start to finish, she went home, worked on her starts, is what I heard, and well, it showed. She comes out first turn first, and just like smooth, clicks off her laps, and that's the race. Like, everyone else is pretty much fighting for second. But she could always make a mistake, or someone else could step it up. It was good to see Andrea Burger back on the gate, help fill that gate. I think she actually ended up second overall on the weekend, so she looked pretty good. Hopefully she continues to keep coming back and start to push Kinsey. So but yeah, Kinsey, she had an awesome weekend, 1-1, and then I think Andrea went 3-2, if I remember correctly.
Yep. Yep.
And then Niamh flip-flopped with Andrea. So good racing between Niamh and Andrea. That was close. But yeah, definitely Kinsey's got something figured out that everyone else just hasn't quite got yet. But I'm sure as the season goes, they're going to keep pushing, and hopefully we'll see a mix up. But at the same time, hats off to Kinsey. She keeps putting in the laps.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite impressive watching that young lady go, and because then she goes and runs in the B class and can run on a podium spot on that, if not win.
Yeah, B class, she's top 3. I saw part of that one, and she's right up there with the guys. So definitely fast. So I'll be interested to see how she finishes up in that one. It's actually quite entertaining. So I'll be interested to see I haven't seen her win yet, and like every weekend you're kind of like, wonder if she's gonna put it all together. Like she's close, really close. So I'll be curious to see if she gets on that top step of the box yet this year.
Well, I can't wait to see that. It's going to be awesome. I heard that Jaden came down with something unexpected on Saturday.
Yeah, Friday he was a little stuffed up and under the weather, and we were hoping come Saturday morning he was going to be better, and it was total opposite. He decided to pretty much lose his voice and not really be able to breathe, which is awesome as a motocross racer to not be able to breathe on the machine. So definitely wasn't the weekend he was looking for, I would say, but also managed what he had going on and did a pretty good job with it. So I'm sure it wasn't what he was hoping for, but also it could have been worse.
Yeah, I mean, it really could have. He could have walked out of there with no points. I seen a picture with Blair Miller and Kevin side by side, wheel to wheel. It looked like they were having a pretty good battle there for a short while.
Actually, the good battle that I saw with Blair was him and Joey Chambers in the first heat race. Those two went at it for a while, back and forth, battling each other. And then as well, Moto 2, Blair pulled the start, and him and Kevin battled a little bit. But pretty much once Kevin made that initial pass, it was from there, it was more just like hitting his marks and kind of separated himself. So, but yeah, Blair had a good weekend, back up with better starts, which got him on the box again. And he's definitely getting closer to the leaders. I feel like maybe it's his endurance or his stamina is getting a little better as the season's going, getting into better race shape. I feel like he's been like holding his pace longer. Starts off pretty quick, and I feel like he's been able to maintain that a little better throughout the moto.
Well, we talked a couple races ago or a couple reports ago about Chambers, and where was he? Because he wasn't, and he was there this weekend. Back to the way he'd normally been. Trying for that top spot.
Yeah, no, I don't know what he did, what he changed, but definitely flipped the switch and came out swinging. Had much better starts, which is always a huge help, and then just looked much more aggressive on the machine, like a lot more fluid, just hanging off the side of it, kind of letting it do its thing. Like I feel like he was very tight at the last couple rounds on the machine, where he really just let it all hang out and just looked a lot smoother and comfier on the machine. So I'll be curious to see how that progresses for him as the season goes, because he rode very well at this last round. So hopefully he picked up on something and continues with it.
Mason also was fast.
That's every weekend with Mason. He's just an animal. He seemed like he struggled on the gate. Like from what I noticed, seemed like he had a little bit of a hard time with that start. Just seemed like he was always mid-pack. Not terrible starts, but just enough to where like Kevin and Blair would get out front and you could run them down by the end of the race, but it was just like not quite enough time on the clock, I feel like, for him. So, but he put up a really good battle against Kevin in the heat races for that first spot. Those two, I mean, he was on Kevin's grab bar for 6-7 laps, like just trying anything and everything he could back and forth. And I think he just got to the point where he kind of settled in and stuck with the pace till Moto2, but was really good to see, as Kevin's obviously no slouch. He's been in the top 10 in our pro class and he's been riding very well. And then Mason's there right on his, grab bar. So it's got to be good confidence for him as well.
Well, two other names that we hadn't talked much about is Brett and if I mess this up, correct me, Ulrich.
Adam Ulrich.
Yeah, his name popped up in the top there in one of the classes, and I was like, I had seen him in the results, but he hadn't been, up in the top there, and he seemed like he had a fairly decent weekend as well.
Yeah, he's been pretty good all year, honestly. I think his biggest deal has been his starts. I feel like every time I watch a race, he's always the guy at the end of the moto that he's coming through the pack and having to make those last minute passes to get into the top 5, top 3. And I think this weekend he had, at least in Moto 1, a better start to where he was able to maybe show his skill set and his speed a little better. Because he's actually been running the AMA Pro class with us, and I think he's been 11th, 12th, like very respectable. Like he seems to be in have a very good fitness program going. What he's got going on, it seems like he just consistently hits his marks and just runs his pace. And in the Pro-Am class, it seems like it's paying off for him because he gets to those last couple laps. And I don't know if it's just from running pro, you're used to that longer moto where he's got a little extra push at the end of the moto, but he's also been stepping it up as the years went as well in Pro-Am.
Well, that's pretty awesome that he's riding better and getting out there and doing more. Just the fact that I noticed his name farther up the tally sheet, which was where it caught my eye. Brett Music also, we spoke about him, and he hadn't been doing much, but this weekend he also had a good ride.
Yeah, I think this track was a super fast-paced racetrack, and there was definitely passing out there, but you had to be willing to maybe little contact or had to kind of be creative with your passing options. And all these guys were kind of discussing did a better job on the gate and got themselves out front and put themselves in a better situation to where they're all so close in speed that they were able to get up front, get that cleaner, better air and kind of roll. Cause Brett looked great. And I from what I've seen, it looks like he's also been doing a little more riding and training. So I'm sure that's also paying off too. But yeah, he had a really good weekend. I don't know. I think he won the 25 plus as well again this weekend. So definitely a good weekend for that music racing team for Pro-Am and Pro Sport. Yeah,
the guys are all shuffling like we had talked about, a few rounds ago, that it hadn't happened yet, and now it did.
Yep.
What are the two biggest contrasts between PA and Indiana? I mean, I know that it rained in Mount Morris or High Point, however you want to call it, and it was dry here. Was it really that big of a difference?
There's a lot of change, to be totally honest, in this track. I feel like a lot of it's the speed at which you're carrying. Like Pennsylvania, I feel like it's a lot choppier of a track. Like this Ironman Raceway has a lot faster of a flow to the track. Like there's just nothing out there that's like gonna stop you or slow you down. Like everything is a sweeping 90-degree, or like there just wasn't a lot of necessarily technical turns. Like it was a lot of flat turns, hard packed, not a ton of braking bumps. Like there wasn't a ton to separate and slow guys down. So I feel like it actually maybe helped some riders, hurt some others, like just what you're comfy practicing on or riding. because it seems like this track, they use the elevation for their big hits, their jumps. Like you got to be willing to jump these big hills up and down them, where at High Point, I feel like they use the hill more for your off-camber turns and to slow you down. Like they make you try and break down these hills, where you go to Indiana and you're accelerating down the hills, and it is just a totally different flow and style to the track.
Okay, well, that explains somewhat of what I was trying to get at. We also need to talk about Caesar. I believe that he's mending well. He'll be on the podcast not this coming week, but the week after. And when I spoke to him, he's excited, and his recovery is coming along well. I mean, because he jumped right into a surgery instantly. So he'll be coming back. You know, I didn't see Molander on the sheet. Is he injured?
No, he was there. Moto 1, he had some mechanical issues on the gate with his machine. Had some things going on, so he didn't even get to drop the gate for Moto 1. And then I'm not sure. Moto 2, I saw him circulating the track. I don't know if he still had more machine issues. If I don't know what he had going on. I just know it wasn't necessarily the best weekend for him.
How's everybody else? It looked like there were 17 guys. If Molander was there, it was 18 guys.
Yep. Yeah. Shoot. The top 7 of us again. Really good battling. I think like that 9th through 12th spot, like there was a lot of good battles for that top 10 position. So all around good racing, no big injuries or get offs. So that's always a great positive and a good bonus to go into places. Yeah, just overall, like really good, solid motos for us, our pro race.
So it looks to me like Joel got both the hole shots and never looked back.
I think Rastrelli pulled the second one, and actually, I think Hogue pulled the first one. So, but Joel was in the top 3 both times. Just had to make a pass or two, and obviously did it very quickly and swiftly. And from there, it was the Joel Hetrick show up front. So he's definitely, from what I've known and listened to, this is one of his favorite courses to go to, and it shows. So he seems to do very well here in Indiana.
Yes, because he had quite a separation on the field again, especially in Moto 1, I believe. Maybe it's not as big as Moto 2. Chad seems to be getting back into his form. You know, battled with Rastrelli, or no, he battled with Ford, didn't he?
Ford for second, yeah. Last lap pass for second in the first moto, and then actually battled with Ford again mid-moto and Moto 2 for second, and then kind of separated himself from the field as the moto went in Moto 2. But yeah, just from talking and seeing him, and I think he's definitely getting back on the mend and feeling more like himself. I think obviously I think he would love to get a little better start, like just from what he had going this weekend and talking, come out 5th, 6th, and have to make a few passes. Like, can't give those, Joel that gap and cushion to be out by himself. So I'm sure he's looking going into this next round, being his home race, to focus on his starts, get himself up front right away, and slowly work at closing that gap between him and Joel and getting back up, fighting for the lead again.
Did something happen to Hogue and Rastrelli if they came out and were in the front group? Did they just filter their way back, or what happened with that? Do you know?
I think they both just kind of filtered their way back each moto. Like each of them just had a little bit of an off moto. Because Hogue had a great second moto, made the last turn pass on Bryce for third. But in the first moto, he started up front, and I'm pretty sure I don't know I'm not aware of any issues that he had other than just maybe a mistake or two that bit him pretty hard and went backwards. And same with Jeffrey. I know he just flat up said, like, kind of struggled at the track all day. But obviously both of them each had a pretty good moto, like walked away with good points. So I'm sure neither one of them were thrilled with their weekend, but yet definitely can hang their head high on it.
Well, yeah, I was a little concerned about Logan Stanfield because he was running up there with you, and he seems to have tapered off. I just was wondering if you'd heard anything from his camp on how he's doing. Is he injured or just settling?
I was gonna say, as far as I'm aware, from the little bit I've got spoken with him and whatever, doesn't seem like he's injured or has any issues there. I don't know if they're working on something on the machine, if anything's changed there or not. I'm not sure. Just maybe, I don't know if he's been struggling with something or not, but definitely hasn't been the rider he was the first couple rounds. So hopefully gets back to where he was at, because he was definitely looking to be probably like our most improved rider. Like, he was really working his way up through the pack.
Right. And you mentioned Brandon. He seems to have figured something out so that he's got a little bit more speed as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's kind of pretty much had the speed all year. I think it's just putting together the whole moto. He's showed like several different motos where he can get himself up in the front and push. So I'd expect to continue seeing the same from him.
Do you think any portion of that has to do with the transition?
I don't know, to be honest. I'm not sure, because he's ridden the Yamaha before in the past. Like, I'm just personally not close enough with that program and with Brandon to know exactly the details on that. So I wouldn't assume so, but possibility still figuring some things out and just slowly putting everything together.
Yeah, we also got to talk about Nick. I mean, the guy's Mr. Consistent, and he's faster than last year.
Yep.
And everybody else got faster, but he's still putting himself in that, 4, 5, 6 spot, every time, and he's not missing it. So he's doing really well. I would have to say he's doing really well. I don't know, since I haven't spoken to him, I don't know if he's frustrated or happy with where he's at.
I mean, I definitely don't see him being super frustrated with it. You're sitting top 5 in points, top 5 every round. I'm sure he's obviously pushing for a little more, but I mean, the dude is, like we were just saying, so consistent and really been putting together good motos. So I don't see anything changing anytime soon. Like, he looks really good and looks right where he belongs.
Yeah. Bryce and Rastrelli are fighting for that number 3 spot, it seems like.
Yeah, they each seem to have their own motos. Like, I think a lot of it comes down to start, but each of them has seemed to both show like some good speed in certain times and separate themselves a little bit.
Do you know what the points breakdown is? Is Bryce in 3rd right now?
At the moment, it's Joel, Bryce, Jeffrey, Chad Janusa, I'm pretty sure is how that rolls. I know Bryce is 2nd behind Joel, and then I'm pretty sure it's Jeffrey, but I would have to double check on that. So,
do you know when they're going to start talking about picking for the Team USA?
Have not heard any news on any of that, to be honest. I have no clue.
Yeah, I seen some social media posts talking about it again.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard any buzz from anybody about it at all.
Oh, usually our pro referee Harv's heavily involved in that, and he hasn't been at the last round. He wasn't here at this last race, and so I'd assume when he gets back, conversations will start happening as well. So usually mid-season, midway point, things start to get rolling on that. So I'm sure there'll be some news sometime here soon.
And well, let's just talk a little bit about Max Lindquist running 7 and 7 for the weekend, and you ran 7 last race. Starting to get your footing back, gaining some confidence?
Yeah, making progress. That's the big one. Just every weekend we're continuing to learn and make things better. So heading in the right direction. Just both the machine and myself have still been continuing to get better and keep working.
Yeah, that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
Anything new coming up in your program that we should know about?
I mean, nothing too crazy going on. Just continue to keep working on the starts and continue to keep doing what I'm doing, and hopefully put everything together here soon and plug away at some top fives and hopefully try and get back up in that group of guys.
That's what it's all about, right?
Yes, sir.
So what do we got to look forward to in round 6?
Great facility, awesome track. Should be brutal. Should be nice and warm. Rough track. Good racing. So hopefully the weather looks good so far. I'd expect a good turnout and a good pro race.
You think the temperatures are going to be up at all, creating any issues for you guys?
I think it's going to be nice and hot and humid. It usually always is when we come here to Sunset. So shouldn't be any issues, but you might see some people maybe thrive a little more than others at the end of the moto.
And the differences in the tracks. So we go from high point, slick, elevations, a little different traction terrain to high speed at Ironman. What are you looking at? You said rough, but what are you looking at when you go?
It's going to slow down. So Sunset's going to be your sandy, deep train tracked, rough, bumpy, still some elevation, not a ton, but some elevation, some ups and downs. But it's really just the soil that it's like the track's kind of got two separate soils, a little harder base on the bottom, gets softer as you come up towards the top of the track, up the hill, kind of a like orange sand. And it, depending on how they prep it, it gets brutal. So you get really nice, nasty holes and kickers. And then you usually get some good train tracks that'll get cupped out as the day goes. So, and then they're always famous for trying to put in a good roller section here that can wear you out as the moto goes. So I'll be curious to see. This track actually has a bunch of changes coming this year. I've seen them posting about it and actually been down there and seen that they've already been working on them, have some layout changes and obstacle changes. So I'll be curious to see. We've been coming here for a long time, so it'll be good to see something new and see what they bring for us for a racetrack.
Do you expect anything different out of any other individuals that are going to excel more in the rough versus some of the high speed stuff?
I'm expecting our hometown rider Chad to go out and put in a really good performance as always. He seems to always thrive there, and I think with him getting healthy, he's always an animal in the rough track. And then Nick Janusa, I think, will have a really good day. It's what he rides every day. You look at what he posts from back home in the sand in New Jersey, like I expect him, he's in good shape to do very well. And then I personally expect myself to come out and get back in the top 5, being a home race. Definitely a track that I expect to thrive at a little bit.
Well, that's good. That's good. I think that, I'd say the top 12 could mix up quite well. What I really want to see is you guys go out there and get out in front of Joel and make him work for it a little harder.
I hope we can do so.
Do you think that let's say he gets a mid-pack start, if it's rutted and rough, do you think it's going to be harder for him to make passes there, or is he going to still have some form of advantage?
he seems to always figure it out quite well, to be honest. I don't see it being much. I don't see it being any more difficult here than it is anywhere else, to be honest. This facility and track they're really good about building option lines and split lanes to where you can get a run on someone and they pick an inside, you're going outside, and you meet and Joel's just has raw speed. So I would expect him to pretty much whatever line you take, I'm going to take the other and do it better. And I would expect him to pretty much make it happen. So
well, that's kind of what I expected you to say, but we're gonna see how it goes and see how it shakes down in a couple weeks in Sunset.
Yes, sir.
Max, as always, hey, I want to thank you so much for taking care of the duties there at the racetrack. And it's good to see that you're getting yourself on track. I'm a fan, and I just there's no bias either, anybody. I'm just a fan. I'm a fan of everybody's, but Max and I are friends, and I just like to see him put his wheels back on and get out there and do battle with those guys. So
appreciate it, Leonard. It's always greatly appreciated. Thank you, sir.